Okay, so we're taking a look at physical properties of minerals. The very first physical property of minerals that we're going to talk about and look at is hardness. Okay, now hardness we talk about being the most useful, the best to use, because one, we can very simply test it in the field and come up with pretty accurate measurements. The second is that it really separates our minerals into different categories and helps us figure out exactly what category this mineral could fall into. Okay. Now, hardness is again resistance to abrasion or scratching. It's how hard, how tightly packed the molecules are together. We use the Mohs hardness scale to measure hardness. Okay. Now, this is the Mohs hardness scale. It's from 1 to 10. You guys have probably seen this before, starting with a 1, talc being the softest mineral we'll ever look at, and then one of the hardest minerals we'll talk about and look at is a diamond. That's a 9 on the Mohs hardness scale. Okay. And these are some of the other minerals that are in between. When you look at this, the other thing that you'll notice is on the right side there are some common objects: your fingernail, penny, glass. Okay, these 3 objects are what we're actually going to be using in our test procedure to see how hard a mineral is. Okay, your fingernail is a 2.5 on the scale, penny is a 3.5, and your glass is a 5.5. Now we'll use those 3 tools to actually come up with what this scale may look like. Okay. Now, here are the rules that we're going to use to follow to show or to come up with an object's hardness. This is the procedure. It's really 3 steps. First, scratch the mineral with your fingernail. Second, scratch with a penny. And third, scratch with a glass plate, or actually scratch the glass plate with the mineral. Go ahead and pause your computer for a second. Copy this down in your notebook, and we'll come back. I'll give you guys examples in just a second. So go ahead, hit pause. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take you through a couple samples just to show you how we would actually come up with the hardness. Okay, so step 1, I'm going to take my sample mineral, and like it says, scratch the mineral with my fingernail. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and as I go ahead and I do that, I notice right away this is coming off on my fingernail. My fingernail is harder than this. That means this mineral is 2.5 or below, so it's less than 2.5. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and move on to a second mineral. We'll take a look here, and so this one I'm actually going to try to scratch with my fingernail. Okay, I'm unable to do so, and so it says if I can't scratch with my fingernail, then I need to move something harder. Okay, the next hardest object in our box or in our test kit is a copper penny. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this and I'm going to scratch it with my penny, and as I do this, I can kind of feel the copper penny digging in and scratching the surface, and as you look at that, you can see some scratches that I actually left in it. For that then, I know that my penny scratched this thing, which means that yes, I did, and this mineral is 2.5 to 3.5. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and grab another mineral here, one that I know is very hard. Okay, I'm going to grab this, I'm going to try to scratch it, and clearly I can't. In fact, when I rub my fingernail on this, I can feel my fingernail being pulled kind of like it's almost filing off my fingernail. That's another thing that you can tell if your fingernail is harder than this or not. You can feel your fingernail scratching it, or you can feel your fingernail getting kind of pulled off. So I felt like a filing happening to my fingernail, which shows me that this is harder than my fingernail. Move on to the penny, and the same kind of sensation. I'm feeling the penny is kind of almost grinding off on this. This thing is not budging, so I know this is harder than the penny. The last object we'll use to test then is a plate of glass. Okay, and so I'm at step 3 now. If I scratch the glass plate, not the mineral now, so we're going to flip it around. I'm scratching the glass plate, and I'm going to go ahead, and you can hear it, and I can also feel it when I dig in. You can actually see the scratch that I put into that glass plate right there at the bottom. Let me get that light right on it again. Okay, you can see that glass plate scratch. Okay, that's from this mineral. I scratched it, therefore that mineral that I just tried is above 5.5. Now, some minerals here, I'm going to go ahead and grab one. Can't scratch with my fingernail. Okay, I know that already. I already tested with the penny. I can't scratch it, so I move on to the glass plate. Now, I go ahead and I try it, and I'm scratching this, and it feels really slippery to the touch. And I go ahead, and it looks like I made a mark. Okay, but again, realize that the glass plate might be harder, and it's rubbing off this. And as it turns out, that mark that I just tried to make will rub off, and it is actually this mineral rubbing off on the glass plate. This is not harder than 5.5. This is actually 3.5 to 5.5. Those are the steps to a hardness test. Again, you guys are going to need to know how to do this, but moreover, you're going to need to know these different parts. Okay, it's on the Mohs scale. probably our most useful test. And lastly, this is probably the one that we use in the field the most to actually give numbers to quantify hardness.